I'm living in that 21st century, doing something mean to it. Do it better than anybody you ever seen. Do it. Screams from the haters, got a nice ring to it.
Hello and welcome in to the inaugural episode of Futbol Weekly. I'm your host, Noah Taborda, here with all of your soccer news. So let me quickly give you an intro of what this show's all about. We're going to be talking English Premier League, Spanish Division 1, France, Italy, Germany, everything you want to hear about. You know, we'll even be talking a little MLS, a little international soccer when it does happen, World Cup qualifiers. And so for all of you soccer fans out there, you know, stay tuned, listen in. And for everybody who doesn't necessarily like soccer or doesn't know much about soccer, you know, listen too. You may learn a little bit about soccer. You may learn a new respect for the game. So I hope this show serves its purpose. I hope everybody enjoys. And without further ado, let's get started. Oh, really quickly, before we get started, if you have any thoughts or comments, text your name to 224-563-8444. Again, that's 224-563-8444. I'll call you guys when it's time, when I have time on the show. So, yeah, go ahead and do that. And now, let's get a score rundown of all the action today. So, we'll start with the Supercopa in Spain. Today, Barcelona tied with Atletico Madrid, but on aggregate, Barcelona won the Supercopa. So, you know, Barcelona continues to win trophies. Doesn't matter if they're on another coach, their third coach in 3 years, it doesn't matter. They still win. Still one of the best teams in the world. And, you know, we'll see when it stops. Let's see if any team can really contend with them. They didn't necessarily blow out their opponent. I believe it was Granada last Sunday. But, you know, there are those games where you see that Barcelona goes out and wins 7-0. And you say, well, this looks like Barcelona again. But, you know, another trophy for them, and good luck for them on the season. Now let's move on to some Champions League qualifying. This was the last round of Champions League qualifying. The winners on aggregate today would go through to the Champions League final, to the group stage. And so let's start with Zenit St. Petersburg versus Pacos de Ferreira. Zenit St. Petersburg of Russia, Pacos de Ferreira of Portugal. Zenit St. Petersburg won 4-2. A goal from Andre Arshavin in the 78th minute put the game basically out of question. It put them up 4-1, and obviously there was no going back for Pacos de Ferreira. Zenit St. Petersburg will be moving through to the next round, 8-3 on aggregate, so that's big for them, another year in. So they got to be happy with that win. Pacos de Ferreira, though, their year is not over. They will play in the Europa League. They will be in the group stage. So, at least there's an upside for them, especially because they're not a big team. Then let's move on to one of the bigger teams in Europe, AC Milan, which won 3-0 today versus PSV Eindhoven after tying 1-1 in their last game. They did play in Italy, which gives them a big advantage. And goals from Kevin Prince Boateng in the 9th minute, Mario Balotelli in the 55th, and Kevin Prince Boateng again in the 77th put the game out of question. AC will also advance to the Champions League final. PSV Eindhoven will, just as Pacos Ferreira did, advance to the Europa League. Let's go now to a smaller team, but, you know, still a team that has a big fan base in Scotland. Celtic, one of the biggest clubs in Scotland. You know, they played great last year. They had one of the biggest upsets by beating Barcelona. They did not pass from that round, but you know, when you beat Barcelona and you're a small team, it makes you feel like you actually have a shot, and it's just big for a team like that. They needed to win 3-0 today because they had lost 2-0 versus Shakhtar Karagandhi in the first round, and they went out there and they took care of business, winning 3-0. Goals from Chris Commons, Giorgio Samaras, and James Forrest, all coming in, one of them was in the first half, and extra time in the first half, but the other two coming in the second half. But, they took care of business, and they're going to be moving on. Shakhtar Karagandhi, unfortunately, will not be passing to the next round. They will be going to the Europa League. And for a team that's so small, it's just very big that they get to pass on to their next round. They're from Kazakhstan. And, Kazakhstan isn't a team you'd say, wow, Kazakhstan, one of the best countries in the world. So it's good for them to be able to pass on at least. Then we have, in my opinion, one of the best matchups. We had Real Sociedad versus Lyon. They played the first round in France, and Sociedad came out and won 2-0. So Lyon this week needed a 2-0 win to advance to the next round. But unfortunately, Carlos Vela came to play. The Mexican international took over the game in the 67th minute, putting 2 straight goals on the board, and they'll advance 4-0. Lyon, one of France's premier teams, is now going to be playing in the Europa League. So that's definitely a little bit of a bummer for them. They were expecting to be a higher team. They've made the Champions League many years in a row. So Real Sociedad will advance, and I'm impressed by them. Not necessarily a team of stars, but they're getting it done. And it'll be interesting to see how they also play in La Liga and how they fare in UEFA Champions League. If they can be a team like Malaga was last year, we'll see. Some of the other teams that made it, Arsenal also passed to the next round. Schalke 04 of Germany is also on. Basel of Switzerland, a team that made it last year too, also progressed. Austria Wien, a team I've never heard of, to be honest, from Austria is also on. Celtic is on. Then another team, lots of weird named teams. Steaua Bucuresti. I've never heard of them. I'm not gonna lie about that. That's odd name, but whatever. Little name teams, you never know. They could have a big impact. And Victoria Pilsen, another team that has made it a lot, is also on to the next round. Unfortunately, a lot of teams are going home. But a couple of teams that I did not mention didn't make the Europa League. PAOK of Greece. Dinamo Zagreb, who was in the Champions League last year of Croatia, will be in the Europa League. Legia Warsaw of Poland. And Maribor, a team from Serbia, will also be in the Europa League. Couple of teams, just big teams that I want to mention that made that'll be in a playoff round now for the Europa League. Maccabi Tel Aviv is one of the big teams. Grasshopper of Switzerland and Zulte Waregem of Belgium, all big teams there. One of the big teams to be eliminated actually was Bate Borisov. For any of you who don't know who they are, they were in the Champions League last year and they went out pretty early in the second round. Another big team, Fenerbahce, who is also a team that was in it last year, also was eliminated. They fared a little better. They made it to the third round, but they just couldn't get the wins when they needed them. So they are out. That's it for the score rundown. So now let's move on to a little news. Let's first talk a little Chelsea. Chelsea today was reported that they completed a move for Brazilian starlet Willian. Willian a couple of weeks ago was on the verge of heading to Tottenham. He had undergone a medical with the club. Everybody thought he was going there. And then Chelsea came in and swooped him up. I mean, you can't be any closer to going to a club before it happened. To any hockey fans out there, it's very similar to the Jerome McGinley to Pittsburgh deal earlier this year, when Boston thought they'd get him, but Pittsburgh swooped in and got him. But, Chelsea got him. A big signing for Jose Mourinho in his return to Chelsea. He is coming from Anzi Machaklala, which is a very good Russian team. They're in a little bit of a spending spree. They've been a solid team. Chelsea now, this is their sixth Brazilian player on their team. He has played 2 times for his country. He's played 2 times for the Brazilian national team. He started out his career on Corinthians before moving to Shakhtar Donetsk, and then, as I said before, to Anzi Machakala. So good signing for Chelsea, trying to bolster their team. I like the deal. And then we're going to move on to my favorite Spanish team. We're moving on to Real Madrid and Mesut Ozil. Over the past couple of weeks, it's been reported that Ozil was in talks with Manchester United. But after a lot of controversy over this, we found out that Mesut Ozil will be staying at Madrid. He said that he likes it. He feels really good here. He also said, I have a contract here until 2016. So he's saying, I'm going to stay here till my contract runs out. But after that, we'll see where it goes from there. It's a really big deal. Ozil said that a lot of people thought that he wasn't really fitting with their new coach, Carlos Ancelotti. He plays a more patient midfield style, which is not really how Ozil plays. But we'll see how he works in. They did sign a couple of new midfielders. They did sign Illarramendi, and they also signed Spanish starlet Isco from Malaga. But we'll see how he fits into the club. Hopefully he continues to play well. And, I don't know how it's going to go. But hopefully they do well. So hopefully they do well. We're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we will have some more news for you.
Your presentation of national sports is brought to you by Spreaker.com. Broadcast and listen to news, radio, and music with one low monthly rate. Your show will be right back after this word from the local stations. You can contact National Sports in a number of ways through Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter with the label National Sports. We love to have you guys a part of our show and can easily join us also through text or call. You're listening to the National Sports radio station on Spreaker.com.
Welcome back in to Futbol Weekly. I'm still here. It's still me, Noah Taborda, on our inaugural episode. We were talking a little Real Madrid when we left, and let's keep going on the news. Earlier we were talking about Tottenham losing their shot to sign Willian, but with the transfer deadline closing in, they may be able to make a deal for starlet Christian Eriksen. Christian Eriksen currently plays for Ajax, and it has been reported that the Tottenham Hotspurs are holding talks with Christian Eriksen. He is a Denmark international, 21 years old, and only has 1 year remaining on his contract, so I wouldn't be surprised if Ajax looked to sell him, because, you don't want to have a player that's going to leave and you don't get anything from him. If they were to sell him now, they could win a little bit, get some money for future transfers. So if I was Ajax, I suggest make the move, get rid of him. He's a solid player, obviously. He's in my opinion, their best player. But it's time to move on. If you're a team that's smaller, that doesn't have as much money, you can't be affording to lose a player and not get anything back in exchange for him. And Tottenham also announced that they had signed Eric Lamela. So that's another big deal. So, there's a lot of things going on now for Tottenham after losing on Willian. So, hopefully, they rebound well. And, they should have a good season. But, there's always the big story. What's with Bale? What is going on with Gareth Bale, the player that everybody's talking about? And now it appears that he's going to get fined. Coach Andres Villas-Boas of Tottenham said that Bale missed 2 practice sessions, so he's about to get fined. That's, I think this is a sign of things to come. You obviously can see that he doesn't want to stay with Tottenham. He wants to leave. And I think that this will be a big shot to Tottenham, but especially how they're handling it, how they signed Eriksen, how they signed Lamela. They're obviously trying to make sure that they have a plan B. And all those signings just point to the fact that he is leaving. He's not staying, and if they do get lucky and they do have him for a little longer, they're going to ship him out when it's time for the January transfer window. It can't go on any longer. They really need to get rid of him. He's just a distraction for the team, and they're not going to move forward as long as he's still on the team. And now, he's got somebody saying that they're worth more than him. Paul Pogba of Juventus, who has been absolutely excellent. He came in here, not many people know about him, came from Manchester United, so obviously he was a good player, but he came in and he played phenomenal. He's won some caps with Italy. He's just been a terrific center defensive midfielder, and now his agent is saying that Paul Pogba is worth more than Gareth Bale. Gareth Bale is said to be going for more than 100 million euros, so that is crazy. And his agent says that Mario Balotelli, and Paul Pogba are worth twice as much. So, those are some controversial words. And I like to just say that I disagree completely. I think Paul Pogba is an excellent player. Unquestionably, one of the brightest young center defensive midfielders, has a great future ahead of him. And maybe one day he'll be worth more than Bale, but it'll be when Bale is worth less than he is now. Because Gareth Bale is a player that can change your team. Paul Pogba, you bring him in, and you're not going to win more games necessarily. You'll have a better defense, but that doesn't mean you're going to be able to score. Bale immediately brings a spark. And I'm not saying that Bale is worth the money that they're paying him, but I'm just saying that Pogba is not worth it. Balotelli is not worth as much. Especially Balotelli. His unpredictability makes him a player that you can't count on. You just can't have him on your team. I'm glad that they are saying this in a way just to kind of bolster them, but they have to realize they can't play. Don't play this too much. Don't start to make this a big debate. Just be careful with what you're doing, and hopefully Bale saga ends. And I wish Pogba the best. I hope that he has a good career, but not worth more than Bale. That's overstepping it a bit. Next, we're going to move on to a little Rooney talk. Rooney, just as a lot of players like Ozil were debating whether or not to leave. Wayne Rooney appeared to be trying to leave, and one of the big teams was Chelsea and Jose Mourinho. But it has come to the forefront now that Rooney will not be leaving. As the transfer window grows closer, there has been no application of Rooney. He has not submitted a transfer request, so it appears that he is staying. Actually, Chelsea and Manchester United played on Monday. They drew 0-0 at Manchester United at Old Trafford. And, it's interesting now. I'm really interested to see if this actually does play out, how he says it's going to play out, that he's going to stay. Because you never know. There are always these rumors that they'll stay or that they'll leave. And then 20 minutes later, you hear that now he is leaving. It goes from 1 second, Rooney's not leaving, and the next second, Rooney's on Chelsea, or Rooney's going to Chelsea, and then 20 seconds later, he's not going to Chelsea. You never know. I guess it's in soccer, you really have to be very patient. You have to wait. You can't say, oh, look, this rumor says that this deal is almost done, because what a deal almost done means is that they are 10% of the way through. The other 90% is follow through and the player not changing their mind. So you really never know. I'd say that just look out for this. I wouldn't be surprised if Rooney submitted a transfer request, but I don't think he is leaving. I don't think he's going to go. He is a very invaluable player despite not starting as much, but he's still a solid player. I'd expect him to stay. And with that, with the closeness, the close deal thing, we're going to go to AS Monaco, a team that, in case you haven't been following soccer, has been spending obscene amounts of money on players. You know, they spent so much on Falcao, James Rodriguez, Toulalan. They bought Eric Abidal, Ricardo Carvalho. I mean, those are some elite players in soccer. And they were just, what was it? I believe it was around 200 million euros. And that was basically because they aren't technically in France, which means they don't pay the same taxes. But it's starting to look like they will have to pay the tax. They will have to pay the taxes. So now, they may have to sell Falcao, and that's been a big rumor. But it doesn't mean that that Dmitry Rybolev, the rich, very spending-prone owner of Monaco, is done. Today it came to the forefront that Monaco is on the brink. Remember, on the brink still only means 10% of the way through. We don't know. They did say about a month ago that Hulk was on the brink of going to AS Monaco, but what happened? He did not go to AS Monaco. So, we don't know if this is actually going to happen, so just relax. Let's see what happens. Don't get too hyped. And the player that they're signing is a player that not many people know. His name is Geoffrey Kondogbia. He's been playing for Sevilla, and he recently told Sevilla that he's leaving. And his release clause is for 20 million euros, and it appears that Monaco have offered that amount of money. So, with this situation, I can probably boost this up to about a 30% that he's going to go. Maybe at most a 50%, but don't get too overconfident. He's also been linked to a couple of big clubs besides AS Monaco. Most notably Arsenal, Manchester City, Real Madrid, Juventus, Inter Milan, Borussia Dortmund, and Paris Saint-Germain. So, those aren't any little teams either. Those are all big teams that have an eye out for young talent. Geoffrey Kondogbia, he can play midfield, more like a center defensive, kind of like a Pogba role. He also can play center back, which I wouldn't be surprised if that's where he's playing, considering they did sign Jeremy Toulalan, who is their center defensive midfielder. So I'd see him more of a center D, and that would finish out their defense. They'd have Eric Abidal playing left back. Right back would be Fabinho. In the middle, we would have Ricardo Carvalho and Geoffrey Kondogbia. Then at midfield, you'd have James Rodriguez. You've got João Moutinho. You've got Jeremy Toulalan. That's three of them. Then they can play whoever they really need at right mid. And then up top, you've got the really surprising player, Emmanuel Riviere, or as his friends call him, the French River. He's been scoring a lot of goals, 4 goals. He leads the team over Radamel Falcao, who would be his partner up top. And I'd just like to touch on Riviere because 2 weeks ago, nobody knew who he really was. Coaches knew who he was. Players probably knew who he was. But no fans really knew who he was. And then he goes out and scores a hat trick, the first of his AS Monaco career, in League One. That's very impressive. I'd like to see how this goes. He may be a threat at the scoring title for AS Monaco. He may beat out Falcao. You never know. But back to Kondogbia. He is French, and he has won 1 cap. So let's see how that goes down. And with that, let's move over to a little MLS news. Breaking just a little bit ago, Landon Donovan has re-signed with the LA Galaxy, a player that was phenomenal in the World Cup, scored one of the most memorable USA goals with the announcer screaming, "Goal, goal, USA," on the last second goal against Algeria to move them on. Landon Donovan, a terrific player, and some say he's aging, but I don't think that age is playing into it. If by aging you mean in his not like early to middle 40s, 30s, excuse me. Yeah, he's 31. You know who's older than him? Xavi, Iniesta. I'm not going to compare them to him. Obviously, Landon Donovan is a much lower player. But to all of those people that say that Landon Donovan is too old, he's not. Age has nothing to do with it. He's still a phenomenal player. Great signing for the LA Galaxy. Great for the MLS. And he has won 5 MLS Cups. And obviously, this will help them get a push for their 6th, which would be back-to-back-to-back, a three-peat, which I don't think has been done in the MLS. I'm not 100% sure, but it would be big. So we're going to see how that goes. So hopefully, this is a good signing for LA. Hopefully he plays to his full potential. I expect him to do so. And yeah, so now let's move on and talk MLS standings. So just a quick rundown of the standings. In the Eastern Conference, sitting in first is the Montreal Impact with 41 points. Second, the New York Red Bulls with 39. Sitting tied with the Red Bulls, also at 39 points, is Sporting Kansas City. In fourth, we have, with 38 points, the Philadelphia Union. And then just after the Union, we have New England Revolution with 36 points. In the hunt for a playoff spot, we have the Houston Dynamo tied with the Revolution at 36 points. And my hometown Chicago Fire with 34 points, just 2 points out of the spot in seventh. The teams following them are not really in the hunt right now. Columbus Crew with 29, Toronto FC with 21, and then in last place, DC United with an abysmal 14 after making the playoffs last year. Just terrible. We move on now to the Western Conference. In first, 40 with 45 points, Real Salt Lake. In second, defending champions LA Galaxy with their newly re-signed player Landon Donovan, 40 points. So this could be big, trying to make a push for the the Supporters Shield, which would be first in all of the MLS and the Western Conference title, obviously. In third, with only 1 point behind the LA Galaxy, the Colorado Rapids. My personal favorite team, the Portland Timbers. My personal favorite Western Conference team. The Fire are my favorite team. But at 39 points, tied with the Rapids. The Seattle Sounders with 37 points. They signed Clint Dempsey, so that's big. And now let's go into the playoff push. In sixth, with 37 points, you have FC Dallas. Seventh, with 36 points, Vancouver Whitecaps. Then with 34 points, you have the San Jose Earthquakes. And then the one team that's really out of the race in the Western Conference is Chivas USA with 21 points. Obviously, their new coach's strategy of all young Mexican players has not worked out yet. Obviously, young pertains to developing. You obviously have to wait a little bit, but it hasn't worked so far. We'll see how that goes. And now let's break it down for you. And I'm going to do my predictions. And let's start with a slightly easier one to debunk. Let's do the Eastern Conference. In first place, averaging 1.71 points per game, 24 games played, and 41 points, as I said, the Montreal Impact. I expect them to stay in first. They have 2 games on the second place team. And the Montreal Impact will come out in first. I wouldn't be surprised if the Red Bulls made a push. If Kansas City made a push, Union could make a push. But I don't see it happening. I see the Montreal Impact staying put at the top. And then we go to second. For the second spot is where it really gets interesting. You have second place through seventh place with the Fire, all in competition for that second spot. All within 5 points. The Fire are in a spot where they could potentially take the second spot because they have 2 games on the Red Bulls. They played 2 games less. So I wouldn't be surprised if you saw the Fire overtake one of them. But there is one team that should be the favorite, in my opinion, to get that second spot, and that is the Houston Dynamo. The Houston Dynamo, 36 points, not 3 points out, and they play 2 games less. I say the Houston Dynamo will push. They should be the favorite that's on the outskirts. But I do think that one of the teams currently in the top 3 spots will end up with second, and it won't be the Red Bulls. It will be Sporting Kansas City once again getting a push for a good playoff spot and a bye. Sporting Kansas City will take it. And with that, the Red Bulls won't even finish in third. The Philadelphia Union will take the third spot, push the Red Bulls down to fourth, and then the Houston Dynamo will just barely, and this is slight bias because I am from Chicago, but I think, and I believe in the Fire. I believe the Fire will take this out. Mike McGee has played phenomenally, and I think we're just going to barely make it, but I think we will. I think we take the 5th spot. So, in the end, I say Impact, Kansas City, Philadelphia Union, New York Red Bulls, and Chicago Fire, Houston Dynamo, and New England Revolution just missing out on the playoffs. Hopefully next year they can get back on track, but not this year for them, in my opinion. And now we move on to the Western Conference, and we have the MLS leading Real Salt Lake, not on points per game. They only have 1.67, which is 0.4 below Montreal, as they have played 3 more games. But points is what matters right now, and they have 45 of them. But I don't see them staying in first. I see the LA Galaxy taking their spot. Re-signing is great. Re-signing Donovan was a great move. They have 2 games on this Real Salt Lake. Playing 2 games less means that if they could potentially win both of them, they would take the top spot, and I think they will. I think they'll barely edge it out, 1 or 2 points difference, but LA Galaxy takes it. Then we got to move on to our second spot, and I don't think Real Salt Lake will even get that one. I think Real Salt Lake will finish in third. I did say they'd finish within 2 points, and I do think they will finish in 2 points, but I think the Portland Timbers will finish maybe 1 point ahead of them, and I think the Portland Timbers take the third spot. Then, in the fourth spot, I've got the Colorado Rapids sitting at 39 points right now. And then in the fifth spot, I've got to give it to the Seattle Sounders. Clinton Dempsey will get them over the hump. They will make the playoffs. Big time for them. So now let's do a little playoff preview. So, from what I've said, let's start with the Eastern Conference. Only one team gets a bye, and that will be the Montreal Yes, the one team gets a bye. That'll be the Montreal Impact, I believe. But I think in the end, the Fire will end up going out in the first round, as will Sporting Kansas City. I say that the finals will, I think it'll be, the Final Four will be the Impact, the Red Bulls, Kansas City, and Philadelphia Union, as they stand right now in the standings. And I think when it comes down to it, I think it's going to be Red Bulls versus Red Bulls versus the Montreal Impact in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I say that the Montreal Impact will upset the Red Bulls, and they will go to their first ever MLS Cup Finals. That's a big one, especially because they are one of the newest teams. I believe they are the newest. So that's pretty big for them. I believe this is their second or third year. So most second or third years don't really do that. Just to point this out, my Chicago Fire did. They won in, I believe, 98, which was one of their first seasons. So let's see you top that, Montreal. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Let's move on to the Western Conference now. I'd say that the Final Four will be Real Salt Lake, LA Galaxy, Portland Timbers, and Seattle Sounders. And I really don't like to eliminate Portland, but I have to go with the Galaxy over the Timbers. And I say Seattle Sounders over Salt Lake, and we have a matchup between U.S. counterparts. We've got Josie Altidore. Woo. No, he's not coming to the MLS anytime soon. Too good for that. But Clinton Dempsey of the Seattle Sounders going up against Landon Donovan of the LA Galaxy. Oh, and that's a great matchup. You know, Seattle is a very talented team. LA obviously going for their three-peat. And I think the LA Galaxy are like the Miami Heat. You can't stop them. You can't stop them once they're rolling. And the LA Galaxy push through to the MLS Cup Finals, where they'll be facing off against the Montreal Impact. And it's a three-peat. I don't know what to say. You know, they're just too good. Re-signing Donovan, just terrific. And the LA Galaxy will raise their third straight MLS Cup to be crowned champions. No supporter shield for them, unfortunately. I do think that Montreal will take the supporter shield. But who cares about the supporter shield when you can have the MLS Cup? So that's big for them. LA should be very proud of their team. Continually winning is not something that is often done. It is a very difficult feat to do, a three-peat, no matter what sport you play. But that's big. And now we're going to go back over to Europe. And debatably one of the most popular leagues, debatably the best league. We're going to the English Premier League or British Premier League. Depends on who you're talking to. And we're going to start at the top of the table. You have Chelsea at the top with 7 points. But they have played 3 games, 2 wins, 1 tie. Liverpool with 6 points. Tottenham with 6 points. Manchester United with 4 points. And in 5th, you've got West Ham with 4 points also. Southampton is also tied at 6 with 4 points. Some of the big teams, Man City and Arsenal, both at 3 points. And then Everton, currently at 2 points. So that's not terrific for them. But now it's time for my Premier League prediction. I am going to go again with Manchester United. That's my favorite team, but it's hard to go against Robin Van Persie in that team. I think they're too good. I think they're going to take that. Then you go up top, and I think Chelsea will come in second, so that's good for them. And we are going to have Tottenham finishing in third. Oh, whoa. Sorry, I completely forgot about Manchester City. Manchester City finishing in third. Tottenham will finish in fourth, and Arsenal in fifth. So in a year that's very cluttered at the top, it's going to be tough year for Arsenal, as they will miss out completely on the Champions League. They will head to the Europa League, but not really what they want. Tottenham will get into the playoff, which, just like I said, recently ended. And the top three, Manchester United, Chelsea, and Manchester City, will all progress to the Champions League. So when we come back from our commercial break, we're going to be talking a little more predictions, doing some more standings, all of that. So stick with us.
America's pastime, but baseball is changing as we know it into a sport we've never seen before. Where is the game headed in the next few years? Major League correspondent Cameron Sadeghi has the answer to that question next on the national sports radio station from Los Angeles, California.
Shit sound like 007 and 64 and shit. Yeah. Jane, gold all in my chain. Gold all in my ring.
Welcome back to the last segment, hopefully, of Futbol Weekly with Noah Taborda. And we're going to go straight diving right back into some standings in Europe. And we are going to move on to Serie A. For those new to soccer, that is Italy. I'm going to leave Spain for last, but we're going on to Italy right now. And currently at the top of the table, we have Napoli. Napoli, a solid team. My dad's favorite team, I think, because they do have a Colombian named Zuniga, who is a phenomenal player, by the way. It's my dad's favorite Italian team, but I have some bad news for you. They're not going to stay there, but I'll get to that in a second. Every team in Italy, they've only played 1 week, so the teams that have won. Juventus has also won their first game. Fiorentina, Cagliari, Roma won their first game. AC Milan lost their first game along with Udinese, so that's big. And but now to my prediction. As I just said, Napoli will not be staying at the top of the table. But you never know. They did bring in Higuain, solid. Jose Callejon, 2 good Real Madrid players. But they won't be staying at the top. And the crown will return to Juventus. I know they struggled, but Juventus will take that crown once again. In second place, we will see AC Milan. Balotelli, just phenomenal. El Shaarawy, you'll see them take that top spot. So that's basically a rundown of that. You know, Italy, not necessarily the most popular league. They have really gone down. Not a couple of years ago, but around 10 years ago, a decade ago, they were one of the biggest leagues. And now you look at them in kind of like, you just look at them and you're like, do I really care about what's going on in Italy? And only the biggest fans really do care anymore. It's not what it used to be. So hopefully they can return to their prime of their league soon. And now we move to France with their top goal scorer being Emmanuel Riviere, the French River, like I said before. Absolutely phenomenal. And we go to the top of the table. Every team in this league has played 3 games. And we have AS Monaco in second place right now. Who's in first? We have Marseille. They are playing well, and they have 9 points, They have a goal differential of 5. That's the same as Monaco. In third, we have Lyon with 6 points. Unfortunately, this season will have a damper on it since they got eliminated from the Champions League, but they will be competing for an automatic qualifier, so they don't have to go through this again. But it will be tough. France is a crowded league, and currently sitting at 5 points, you've got Paris Saint-Germain, a couple of other big teams, Bordeaux and Montpellier, also sitting at 4 points. So that's big. And my prediction for this league, I'm going with AS Monaco in first. After watching the first couple of these games, saying that unless Falcao does get sold, if he does get sold, I pick PSG. But Monaco is my pick right now. If nobody gets sold, I think that they're going to win. I don't think Marseille will hold at the top of the league. I say Monaco in first. Paris Saint-Germain, obviously a phenomenal team. And this will be a big disappointment for them, not being able to get at the top of the table. But they will have a Champions League berth. And then in third, Marseille will qualify. And then at fourth, we'll have Lyon. And unfortunately, I believe that means that they're going to be heading back to the Champions League playoff once again. Hopefully they can do better this time, but it's always tough. You never know who you're going to get up against. We'll see how that goes. But yes, AS Monaco is my pick. The big spenders taking the crown. Next, we're going on to Germany. The defending Champions League champions, the runners-up, both in that league. You have Bayern Munich, a powerhouse with Pep Guardiola as their new coach. And you've got Borussia Dortmund, obviously a phenomenal team at the top as well. Bayern Munich at 10 points. Dortmund at 9. Bayern Munich, though, has played 4, while Dortmund has played 3. Leverkusen at 9, 3 games played. And Mainz, also 3 games played, has 9 points. And then you also have to talk about Hertha, with 3 games played at 7 points. So currently at this situation, Dortmund, if they win their next game, would go into first. Leverkusen, if they won, could go into first. Mainz possibly could go into first. Hertha could possibly tie for first. So Bayern has not really secured their spot up top. We'll see how that goes. But when it's all said and done, don't bet against Bayern Munich. Please. They are so good. They are phenomenal. The signing of Mario Götze, a terrific signing. I say they should run away with this. Dortmund lost Götze, obviously. He came from Dortmund. I don't think Dortmund sustains this. I think there's too much going on. I think he leaves, and Dortmund can't hold on. Do I say they come out and pop out of the Champions League? No, by no means. They will still finish in second in Germany, but Bayern Munich is too good, too fast, too strong. Just got too much going right for them. Bayern Munich will come out of this league the victors. And with that, we move on to my favorite league, what I believe is the best league in the world, with debatably 2 of the top 5 teams in the world. We're moving on, you guessed it, to La Liga. And the 2 teams I was talking about, obviously, in case you didn't know, which hopefully, if you're a soccer fan, you do, are Barcelona and Real Madrid. Barcelona and Real Madrid, part of the pack right now, the pack of 5 that have played 2 games and are all 2-0. They're also in there with Atletico Madrid, Athletic Bilbao, and Villarreal. Real Sociedad, who just qualified for the Champions League, currently sitting with 4 points, tied for second. So that's good for them. And it's time for the prediction. And so difficult for me to say this. I am a Real Madrid fan. I love signings like Isco, but it's Barcelona. It's just not smart to bet against them, and I have to go with them. I say Real Madrid in second, and I'll say that Atletico Madrid will finish in third. They lost Falcao, but they'll finish in third. David Villa will be a solid replacement. They will play well. I mean, they did just win 5-0 versus Rayo, which is it's a pretty big blowout in my opinion. But yeah, they'll take that. They also have Diego Costa, who's also a solid player. But Barcelona's taking it. And I just have to repeat it over and over again because it just saddens me that I have to say every time that I'm talking about La Liga that Barcelona is the best team. You know, I wish Real Madrid could replicate the year they won La Liga. I wish they could get it back, but I just don't see it happening. I do think they're moving in the right direction by signing some young midfielders, but it's just, they just can't do it. Barcelona, Lionel Messi, the best player in soccer, debatably already one of the top 10 players in history, and by the end of his career, could be the best. I don't want to start a debate here. I do think Pelé will still be better, but you never know. Real Madrid will put up a fight. I don't expect them to just bow out like they did last year, but Barcelona wins this. And even though they win this, I don't see them as a contender for the Champions League. I just don't see that. My 5 favorites for the Champions League are Real Madrid. I will also include PSG. Unfortunately, I can't do AS Monaco because, they won't make it. I'm going to say Manchester United, Bayern Munich, and Borussia Dortmund. Those are my teams. I don't say Barcelona. I just don't see them being a threat. They weren't really at the point they needed to be last year. I think they're worse than they were last year when they almost went out very early on. And I don't think that this is the team that can really compete and that can really win. They are a solid team, but in the Champions League, it's so good. It's just too difficult for them. I don't think they will just be one of those teams that just plays terribly. I think that would be overstepping it a bit. But do I think that they're a team that goes to the semifinals? No, I do not. So yeah, that's my prediction. Those are my predictions. Let's go and talk about some of the big scores for the weekend. Tomorrow, not much going on. A little bit of Europa League, some CONCACAF Champions League, but not much that I would really say tune in for. It's necessary to tune in for. But Friday, 2:45 p.m. Eastern, Bayern Munich versus Chelsea, the UEFA Super Cup. I pick Bayern Munich. I don't think there's a question about that. Chelsea hopefully can put up a fight, but that's my big game for the weekend. Definitely the number one to watch for. There is some MLS going on. Toronto FC versus New England. My Western Conference favorite, Portland Timbers versus the Western Conference leading Real Salt Lake. So that's big. And then we move on to Saturday, one of the bigger soccer days. A lot more going on. The LA Galaxy versus San Jose in the MLS. Red Bulls versus DC United. Then, of course, you got to mention any game, including the big English teams. Manchester City will be playing Hull City. That's probably the biggest game. One of the few games that it's necessary to tune in for just to watch Manchester City work magic, how they do. But that's my game for the Premier League. Then you go on to Spanish Division 1. And there's not much going on. Granada, Getafe, Villarreal, a couple of smaller teams. I wouldn't say tune in for that. And then you go to Italy. There is the game that you should tune in for today, if there's any game. Juventus versus Lazio. Great game. I picked Juventus in that game. Tune in for that. Should be a great game to watch. Fun to watch. So that's good. France. Not much going on there either. But if you are a Paris Saint-Germain fan, there is a game against Guingamp. The reason I say not much going on when I said that is because Guingamp is not a very good team. I don't think it's a game really worth tuning in for unless you want to see a rout. But some people like to see routes. If they want to, they can. I do not hold it against them. Go ahead and watch it. And next we are going to move on. Whoops, I skipped a month here. I went all the way to October instead of going to September 1st. Let's go. Okay. Chicago Fire versus the Houston Dynamo. They are currently sitting 6th and 7th in the Eastern Conference. Big game there. Couple of big games going on in the Barclays Premier League. Liverpool, Manchester United, 8:30 Eastern Time. Big game. I suggest you turn in for that. Big rivalry. I pick Manchester United, but it will be exciting to watch. Then, at 11 a.m. Eastern, You got Arsenal versus Tottenham Hotspur. It'll be a great game. Interesting to see whether or not Gareth Bale will be part of the Tottenham Hotspur, as it will pass the transfer deadline, so we'll see if he will be part of the team during that game, or if he won't be. We'll have to wait and find out. Then on Sunday, we've got the two big Spanish division teams, Real Madrid against Athletic Bilbao. Should be a good game. Two top of the table teams. That's a tongue twister, all right. Then you got Barcelona Valencia. Should be a solid game as well. So I look forward to that. AC Milan versus Cagliari. A player to watch, in case you don't watch Italy, is Colombian striker Victor Ibarbo. Solid young player. You've also got Inter Milan versus Catania, which I would also suggest tuning in for. In the Bundesliga, you got Borussia Dortmund versus Eintracht Frankfurt. Should be a good game. I want to see how Borussia Dortmund can react. And then the game where if AS Monaco wins, they will hit the top of the table. They take on Marseille. I'm going to pick AS Monaco to take the top of the table. That's a big win for them. And yeah, those are my big games for the weekend. Hopefully they're as good as I think they will be. I really don't want them to let down. There's a lot of good games going on over the weekend, so that should be exciting. And now on to some weird soccer stories. Not necessarily recent or anything, but Paul, the World Cup octopus, unfortunately, he died. He picked the World Cup a bunch of times. He was a famous guy, correctly predicted the outcome of 8 winning matchups in the World Cup. And, it's sad. I will unfortunately not be able to attend his funeral. I am aware that Messi will be in attendance if you want to go. So that should be an interesting sight. The funeral will be big. Lots of people who really loved him. It's just so sad that it has to end like this, that he's going to go out without a proper goodbye from me. Me and him are really close friends, in case you didn't know. So it really strikes me deep in the heart. I'm heartbroken. I don't know what to say. I just, after this, I'm going to have to go and just cry for hours. Honestly, me and him were so close. It's just so sad. Another weird story. This is not so happy. This is not a very happy story. Apparently, this is from, by the way, October 2010, so it's a really long time ago. Oh, that's the lightning strike. That's a video of the lightning strike. But an entire Congolese football team, soccer, was killed from a single lightning bolt. I don't know if this is true. You never know. I'm going to watch the video now. Let's see what happens. So basically, they're playing. Everything's going good. And then people start collapsing. Do you even see it? I don't see any people dying. It doesn't seem that people died. I don't think they did die. It says that the entire Congolese team was instantly killed, but I didn't see that. I just saw people falling down and moving around like they had seen a bright light. Whatever. That's ridiculous. Big story. Paul obviously died. That's much more important. Nobody cares about fake dying. But yeah. And with that, we're going to wrap up what has been, in my opinion, a terrific first day, first show. I enjoyed it a lot. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. And tune in, I believe it'll be this weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, for Blake and Noah, LA to Chicago. We'll be breaking down all of the football, all of the NFL scores that happened, some of the games going on that will happen later. We'll be breaking down first week of college football. Obviously, Bama will have played, Ohio State, big teams, big weekend. We'll be giving you an NFL prediction, giving you all the latest news on the MLB and the NBA. So that'll about do it. Thanks for tuning in. And with that, I will say goodbye, good night, and, just keep living your life. Keep going towards your dreams. And with that, I will leave you out. See you later, guys.
Turn my headphones up.
Louder. What you need? What you need? I got what you need. What you need? What you need? What you need? I got what you need. LOL, wait a minute.